The twin suns of Cathera 7 beat down mercilessly on the crimson dunes, turning the desert into a shimmering hellscape that would kill most carbon-based life forms within hours. Darren Cole had been left here to die, bound hand and foot, his water rations spilled into the sand by the mercenaries who'd betrayed him. They'd taken his tools, his ship, and his payment for 3 months of hard labor repairing their fleet. All because he was human, a species the Galactic Empire still considered little more than clever animals. Darren didn't waste energy on anger. Anger burned calories, and calories meant survival time. Instead, he focused on the rope binding his wrists, working methodically despite the twin suns scorching his already blistered skin. Humans had one advantage in the Empire: they were underestimated. While other species had evolved on worlds with stable climates and abundant resources, humanity had clawed its way up from a death world where survival meant adapting to impossibility. The rope finally gave way after 2 hours of persistent friction against a sharp rock. Darren's hands were bloody but free. He stood on shaking legs, scanning the horizon with eyes that had evolved to track prey across ancient savannas. That's when he saw them, 6 massive shapes half buried in the sand about a kilometer away, metallic scales glinting in the brutal light. Dragons, or what the Empire called Sithra-kind, ancient beings of immense power who served as the Emperor's elite guard and advisors. But these weren't flying overhead in their terrible glory. They were crashed, half dead, and by the looks of the debris trail, shot down. Every logical instinct told Darren to walk away. Sithra-kind were dangerous, unpredictable, and had a documented history of eating species they considered inferior. But Darren had seen the scorch marks on their ship's hull, the same signature burns he'd repaired on the mercenary vessels. Whoever had betrayed him had also attacked the Empire's most sacred warriors. He stumbled toward them, each step an agony in the burning sand. The largest dragon lay at the crater's center, her massive body a marvel of organic engineering, scales that were part armor, part solar collectors with biomechanical augmentations fused seamlessly to her flesh. Her eyes, each the size of Darren's head, flickered open as he approached. One was badly damaged, sparking with broken circuitry. "Human," she rasped, her translator implant crackling. "You should run. I am Sithra, wing commander of the 3rd Fleet, and I am dying. When a Sithra-kind dies, our internal fusion core," she coughed, blue blood spattering the sand, "detonates." "How long?" Darren asked, already circling her body, assessing the damage with the mechanic's eye. "Minutes, perhaps an hour if I can maintain consciousness." Sithra's remaining good eye focused on him with surprise. "Why aren't you fleeing?" "Because I'm a mechanic and you're a machine that's broken." Darren knelt beside her damaged eye, examining the shattered augmentation. "Also, I'm going to die out here anyway. Might as well die doing something useful." Sithra made a sound that might have been a laugh or a death rattle. "Humans, I heard you were all insane. Just practical." Darren's fingers, nimble from years of precision work, began carefully extracting shrapnel from her optical implant. Without his tools, he had to improvise, using pieces of her own broken armor plating as makeshift instruments. "Your cooling system is compromised. That's why your core is overheating. I can see the leak from here. It's integrated into my spine. You'd need to reach inside my chest cavity to repair it." "Then that's what I'll do." For the next 40 minutes, Darren worked with a focus that shut out pain, thirst, and the very real possibility that Sithra might explode at any moment. His hands, guided by understanding of mechanical systems that transcended species, found the compromised coolant line. He used strips torn from his own clothing, soaked in Sithra's biocoolant, to create a temporary patch. It was crude, inefficient, and would never pass any inspection, but it worked. The critical temperature alarm that had been wailing from Sithra's internal systems finally silenced. "Impossible," Sithra whispered. "You repaired a Sithra-kind biocore with cloth and your own blood." She could see where he'd cut his palm to mix his hemoglobin with her coolant, creating a sealant. "Red blood cells are excellent coagulants," Darren said, swaying on his feet from dehydration and blood loss. "Works on machines too, apparently." Sithra's systems were stabilizing, and with them her strength returned. She moved her massive head, her restored eye glowing with renewed power. "You saved my life, human. More than that, you saved my entire wing." She gestured with a claw to the 5 other dragons scattered around them.
"We are bound by the eternal oath. Your life is now mine to protect." "Great. Can we start by getting out of this desert?"
I'm about 5 minutes from becoming a Darren Jerky. What Sithra did next would be recorded in Imperial history for generations. She, a wing commander of the ancient Sithra kind, lowered her massive head in submission to a human, a species most of the Empire classified barely above vermin. She extended her wing, creating shade, and shared her own water reserves through an emergency transfer port. When we returned to the Empire, Sithra said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction, I will testify before the Emperor himself, about the mercenaries who shot us down and left us to die, about their trafficking in illegal weapons, and about the human mechanic who, tied and abandoned in a scorching desert, chose to save his enemy's enemies rather than save himself. Darren managed a weak smile. I wasn't being noble. I just really hate waste. Your expensive military hardware, leaving you to explode, seemed inefficient. Sithra's laugh rumbled like distant thunder. Humanity, fuck yeah, she said, trying out the phrase she'd heard in human transmissions. I'm beginning to understand what that means. As the other 5 dragons began to stir, their systems restored by Sithra's shared power reserves, Darren Cole allowed himself to collapse in the shade of her wing. He'd survived because humans were survivors, adaptable, stubborn, and just stupid enough to try the impossible. 3 weeks later, when Darren stood before the Galactic Emperor with Sithra beside him, her testimony would shatter the mercenary cartel and elevate humanity's status in the Empire, from clever animals to protected allies of the Sithra kind. But that was future. For now, Darren simply closed his eyes and enjoyed the fact that he was alive, and that sometimes, being underestimated was humanity's greatest weapon. The desert had tried to kill him. So had betrayal. But like all humans before him, Darren Cole had looked at impossibility and said, not today.